I am one of the many young Welsh researchers, and our research has looked into the minds of young people to provide their ideas as to how we can close the poverty gap with education.
So this morning then I'd like to concentrate on what can be done, the focus on tackling the issue rather than talking about what the problem is. I think we all know what that is. And to start off with conceptualizing the problem in terms of what the school can do. So I'll focus on schools in particular.
You might think, firstly, peer tutoring, echoing the young researchers and what they were saying about the importance of peers. Peer tutoring one-to-one appears to be very, very important. I suppose it's basically having a friend in the class. If you're from maybe what's a difficult background, matters in a way that it wouldn't for a middle-class kid. And also extracurricular programs at the end of the school day. Now, both those have effects on disadvantaged children particularly. Therefore, it's very simple. All schools should be doing those two things and lots of them. So we can take the PDG and try and ensure that it really does help the disadvantaged. Now, note about those two things. Peer tutoring and after-school clubs and societies. Both those two things are teaching-based. It's a teacher who does the after-school club. It's the teacher who sets up the peer tutoring situation. They're not school-level things. They're classroom teacher things. And I think there is now abundant evidence, and this would be the way I'd recommend for us to go, that it is the teacher that is the most important thing in determining the outcomes of education, and therefore it's the teacher in the classroom, not the school-level program or the national program or the local authority program. So my way forward is very much thinking about it, not to degrade explanations about the school. School matters. You've got to have good schools. But the truth is, even if you have a good school, your variation within your school by department and teacher is still huge. So that's where I'd go. It's teachers, and I think Welsh policy discussion, including that of Estyn, that does talk a bit about teaching, but often talks a whole lot more detail about schooling than teaching, is not necessarily very helpful.
Okay, do you want to play?
Well, what I don't find very helpful is setting up this false contrast between us. Anyone who knows anything about Estyn, and I can see a lot of people out there who are Estyn inspectors, know that what Estyn keeps saying all the time is that the most important thing is teaching. We've always said that. That runs through, the writing through a stick of rock, through everything Estyn says and does.
That Save the Children is known very much for its international work, but it's very much a child rights-based organisation, and I just want to bring that into the debate this morning, and I want to read something from the concluding observations from the United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child in 2008. And they said that the committee is concerned that significant inequalities persist with regard to school achievement of children living with their parents in economic hardship. And they recommended that we continue and strengthen its efforts to reduce the effects of the social background of children on their achievement in school. So I just want to frame this as it is the right of the children living in Wales that they have the best possible education, and that we do take measures to, as I know the Welsh Government has, put in place these measures to try and reduce the impact of poverty on education.
Schools don't exist in a bubble. They exist within their communities. And so school improvement, as David did allude to in his speech, I think needs a broader definition of what we're talking about there.
And that's where I think it's important that we find a way to engage families and communities, as David said, in improving the educational attainment levels of parents and carers, which has a direct bearing on children.
And listening to the film clip earlier, it very much is about, isn't it, making that bridge between home and school. So we've set up structured conversations, targeted individual children and families for making that work happen. And it's very much in its early stages, but I can see that is something that will certainly grow and evolve as we go.
I was just going to ask you that when you were out there doing the research with the young people, we've heard a lot today about quality of teaching And we've also heard about the influence of the home. How much did that come across to you in terms of the young people you spoke to about their home life?
Teaching came across as a huge vital part, especially because like community is such a big aspect of people's lives, especially when it comes to bridging the gap between poverty and education. And I think a way of bridging the gap between education and poverty is by bridging the gap between teachers and the pupils, and not just in the sense of how they communicate to kids. For example, as you said with maths, apparently teachers find that very difficult. I personally have that right now. I'm resitting my maths GCSE, and my teacher is excellent, and that's making such a big difference compared to when I was doing it the first time around, because I just did not communicate well with the teacher. And on top of that, I also communicate well with the teacher on a friend-to-friend level, and I think that is so vital when it comes to bettering your education, having a good connection with your teachers.
Definitely a huge opportunity to be called a young Welsh researcher, and especially a leader of that group of people. And I think we're starting to get a good stigma attached to us now, especially when it comes to being in front of all these very important people, them coming up to us and asking us what we think on what should be done to help the Welsh children bridge the gap between poverty and education. And for us to do that, that's just amazing.
I take the opposite view, that you have to do something about it, because I think Wales' future as a country isn't a great future if we're prepared to tolerate and accept that level of poverty. And I say that both from the moral purpose, I think there is a moral purpose to tackling poverty, but also the economic purpose of what sort of country do we want to be. The Joseph Randall Foundation are very clear about the economic inefficiency and the drag of poverty and deep-rooted poverty. And we know that educational achievement is a significant part of preventing future poverty. It's a bit cyclical. If you don't have people having greater levels of educational achievement, you're unlikely to see those people earning more, and who's going to invest in those communities if you've got very low levels of achievement and engagement in education. So it is about high-quality teaching. It is about family and community engagement in teaching and learning as well. I don't think you can just focus on one part of that.
Morgan and I decided there are 6 main reasons why we think Dyffryn is such a success. And as you know, Port Talbot is described as a deprived area. So, firstly, the extra opportunities in Dyffryn we thought were so vital to include. Secondly, the range of curriculum activities, the teachers employed in the school, the rules enforced in the school, the safety, and the visits in the school.
Yes. Thank you both. That was, well, it was interesting but very entertaining as well. I just wondered what difference you both thought this approach within your school had made to your education.
Do you want to start?
You go for it.
Okay. We both went to Carmarthen Juniors, and I am going to get on to Dyffryn. So I moved up here when I was 6, so it was something so new for me. I'm 2 years older than Morgan, so I know him kind of, slightly. So when I went to Carmarthen, it was so new, and I mean everything Welsh was really different to being in England. It was really scary. But then when I came to Dyffryn, and I was with people that I knew, everyone was so friendly, and the education system isn't, your bog standard education system. They really do make sure that you are catered for. I think Morgan and I are both MAT pupils, so that's catered for. So you've always got these extra tasks. I mean, for GCSE history, to make sure that I'm getting the A stars I'm targeted for, I've been given an extension booklet. And, not just me, several others. But that means that the teacher can spend more time with the disadvantaged pupils, and I don't have to suffer because I'm doing what I need to do. So I mean, definitely GCSE courses, everything, the approach is just fantastic. So Morg is in, normal key stage, so.
I completely agree with Olivia, because I think the opportunities that Dyffryn gives is absolutely amazing. Because the extra groups that they provide is fantastic. Because those who are more able and can complete work faster and find it easier than maybe more others in the class, they offer harder booklets and harder work, which teachers incorporate to you using their very own techniques.
Blimey.
And we thought that you were really optimistic about your school. Are they all your own views, or do you?
Yeah, they were our own. I mean, Mr. Rose kept saying, our head teacher, he was like, make sure you know that I'm not telling you to put this in. because we did do it a lot differently and we had different views and stuff. And then when we decided, when we decided we were going to do a PowerPoint, we had to really shorten it. But they were all definitely our own views. And I think because different as like year 7 and 8 are in a different site, and year 9, 10, 11 are in the upper school, like it was easier so you could have his view like that.
Oh, right, yeah.
So, yeah.
But the decision was made to create a particular new way of working that came to be known, and now is very well known, as the London Challenge. Now, I'm not going to tell you the full story of that because I only became involved in London Challenge in the latter period, but just to say, over the 5 years of London Challenge, only in the secondary sector, it was clear that remarkable progress was made in terms of the performance of secondary schools in the capital city. So I conclude by saying the most important lesson is the need to have a collective view, the collective will to make it happen.
I think one of the problems we're up against, though, is that the regions and the local authorities are there and they're in place. I think the model that we've been looking at now from the Manchester Challenge and that coming into Wales is, here's something we want to do, let's establish a group to do it. Because we've done it the other way around. We've set up the committees, as we do all over Wales. We've got a committee now, right, it's called the region. And now what are we going to do with it? I think that's the problem. I've heard lots of things today about different groups of people trying to work together, different agencies becoming more involved in schools, and schools building capacity to do more things other than just teaching and learning in the classroom. And all that's very good, and there's so much of it going on. Great news. But the thing that's excited me most is the Wales Cymru Challenge, where schools are going to be working together. And I think it's not about targeting a particular group of disadvantage or whatever, it's about making the whole thing better for everyone. And I'm confident the way they've set it out that it's going to succeed.